I started off as an agent in 2006 and 7. I was 26 years old. And this is before everybody was 26 and 27 that was a realtor. There was no cool TV shows about it. There was nothing sexy about it. On my first full calendar year of real estate, I was able to do $15 million in real estate sales.
Wow.
And $15 million might not sound like a lot now in 2023, 2024. But back in 2007, I was one of the biggest producers in the area. I acquired a brokerage in 2013 with about 8 agents.
Okay.
Who maybe did 100 deals a year. And we've been able to grow that to today we have 5 offices. We have about 300 agents, and we do about 2,500 transactions a year. $1 billion in sales volume with about a $500,000 average sale price. This is a great time to re-enter the market for the people who put themselves in the right position to succeed, and right now can have a tremendous year, and the ones who aren't are going to really be regretful that they did it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for jumping in. Today, we have an amazing guest, Carl Sanfilippo. I've known you for a few years. I met you in 2019 and always been super impressed with you as an individual, you as a business leader, and your organization is massive and super successful there in the Northeast. And I've been watching it for a while. And the thing that comes to mind when I think of you is just consistent. Right. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you're a really smart guy. I think you're a really great salesperson, a great recruiter, a great business person. But I don't know many people that are as consistent as you. Right. So I see your videos, watch them all the time. People who likes 100% of your videos. So I'm obviously like a fanboy, but I appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you're at, maybe a little bit about your journey.
Right. Well, Isaac, first and foremost, you're one of the people I respect the most in the real estate industry. So I really appreciate you inviting me to be on the podcast. I'm excited for you and everything you have on your horizon. So it's an honor for me to be on here. Really, I started off as an agent in 2006 and 7. I was 26 years old. And this is before everybody was 26 and 27 that was a realtor. There was no cool TV shows about it. There was nothing sexy about it. So I became an agent, and it was right before the foreclosure wave of 2008. And I had my first broker said, hey, you should really look at getting into bank-owned properties. I think it's something that's going to be huge to come back. And that was about the amount of training I got on it. So in 2006, 2007, I started working soliciting banks for REO properties. So when the property gets foreclosed on, the bank gets it, I would list the property. And that was before it really hit. So I had really good timing. And what I would do is I would go to the sheriff's sales, because it was before it was on the internet. I used to write down what properties went back to the bank, and I would literally call the 1-800 number on the bank to the bank. And I would say, hey, I'm a house down the street from me got foreclosed on. I'm interested. And I would try to get to the gatekeeper, real business to business sales. Mm-hmm. So in my first full calendar year of real estate, I was able to do $15 million in real estate sales. Wow. And $15 million might not sound like a lot now in 2023, 2024. But back in 2007, I was one of the biggest producers in the area, and we really flywheeled REOs. Mm-hmm. So before I knew it, I built a team before I really even knew what building a team meant. Okay. We were doing, we had years doing a couple hundred REOs, and about 7 years into it, I knew I wanted more. I was like, I'm really enjoying this. I have it built out where I'm not really running in the day-to-day, but I didn't come this far just to come this far. There's something else I want to do. Yeah. So I acquired a brokerage in 2013 with about 8 agents. Okay. Who maybe did 100 deals a year. And we've been able to grow that to today we have 5 offices. We have about 300 agents, and we do about 2,500 transactions a year. $1 billion in sales volume with about a $500,000 average sale price. And we have a bunch of verticals now in that business. But I just really, really love the real estate business. I love helping people. I'm not in love with being a realtor anymore, but what I love about real estate is there's so many different facets, so many ways to generate revenue and earn a living in real estate. And I really love helping agents. Extremely passionate about it. I've been lucky enough to help agents where they say, hey, Carl, I've been able to pay off my house. I've been able to take my first vacation for years. I've been able to save my house because of your guidance and leadership. And to me, that's priceless. So I've seen a lot of different aspects in the real estate business, from agent, brand new, no training, team leader, broker owner, no training, and just kind of figuring out and learning from others in the industry like I've learned from you.
Well, that's awesome, man. And I do want to talk because remember, the audience is people that are probably either just starting out a team, have been on a team, building their team for a while, or, they're pretty massive. And so I do want to learn a little bit about, you said you started a team without really knowing you were starting a team. What was that structure like? And probably just more importantly, what would you have done different?
It's a good question. And one thing I did off the bat was I hired an admin. And I'm really passionate about agents doing that first when starting a team, because what I learned was really my unique ability was my consistency in my prospecting. There was no other magic pill. There was no other way to do it. As I used the phones. There was no Zillow back then. You couldn't really buy leads there. So I really had to work on creating my own business. And I was doing that through cold calling, but I was terrible at paperwork. When my old broker was like, please, we're going to get you some help because you can sell, but you just can't do any of the other stuff. And I was like, okay. So I got an admin, and that really helped me be able to free me up to do more listings. And then secondly, I got was a runner, because especially with REOs, it was very intensive on the road. I couldn't be everywhere at once. And I knew my time was best spent on trying to generate more business than driving around. So I kind of got a runner was my next step. And then I started getting some buyer's agents because we were just getting so many buyer leads and there were so many good opportunities. Because I still think to this day, your best leads are your listing leads, sign call leads. So we had it where you call in the lead and broadcast it. This was all before I didn't really, a lot of the big companies were doing this and I didn't even know. I was just kind of figuring out on my own. One thing I should have done sooner was kind of get into coaching and more atmospheres, because I think it would have cut down my learning curve, because I had to figure a lot of this out on my own. There wasn't as many resources like this podcast and things out there to be able to cut your learning curve and compress time.
Yeah.
But I figured it out. We built the team, but I wasn't really satisfied. I think I was losing my love of being an agent. And some of that is probably because I did make mistakes with the team. I didn't know maybe the proper way to structure it or structure the commissions. And I didn't have that much freedom in the brokerage I was in to be able to really do what I needed to grow. So I think that kind of stopped me a little bit, but I wouldn't change anything because I learned so much along the way.
Wow.
So I really love coaching teams now because I love to share what I did wrong. So somebody else doesn't, to be able to compress that time. And I really think that's part of our value proposition at our brokerages. We help agents compress the time. We want to help you scale. We want to help you grow. And we're really committed to that.
Nice.
But anyone listening to this, if you're thinking about growing a team, first thing you have to do is outsource all your admin work, because your time is going to be best spent on generating more leads.
Yeah, nice. So tell me, all right, you got 5 offices. You said 300 agents, right?
Correct. Yep.
500 transactions. That's exciting. But I know you. What are you most excited about moving forward? Like
Oh man.
2024, January 2024, as we're recording this, what are you excited about, man? Tell me, like, and shamelessly, just tell me, like, how amazing what you got going on in your business, dude.
Well, I'm excited because I really made a intentional effort in 2023 to invest in people. So we hear all the time about investing in AI, investing in technology, the next latest, greatest lead source. I made a conscious effort, said I'm going to budget more to invest into people, to build a leadership team, to build people who are better at doing things than I'm doing, and to replace myself. And what I'm really excited about is we just enrolled in EOS. And if you're not familiar with EOS, it's the Entrepreneur Operating System, because we're at a level where we can really get to the next level, but we have to be dialed in on what everybody's doing, what everybody's accountable for, where the buck stops with that person, and everybody can stay in their lane doing what they're good at. And if everyone's doing what their unique ability is and what they enjoy doing, that's how we're going to flywheel to the next level.
Yeah.
So as a company, I am so excited. There's so much change going on in the industry. Things aren't changing by the month. They're not changing by the day. I mean, they're literally changing by the minute. That I see that there's a lot of opportunity when change happens for those who are prepared and ready to go after that opportunity.
Yeah.
So on a brokerage level, as we're exploring a lot of mergers, we're exploring a lot of acquisitions. I think we can really grow bigger and we can really flywheel. And EOS has just given us a lot of great clarity. I've really dialed into my role is a visionary, and my partners is really the integrator. He likes having the tough conversations. He likes doing the stuff I don't like doing. So I'm trying to delegate everything that's not in my sweet spot so I can really focus on what I want to do to really grow the business and do it the right way where we're not burning everybody out. And we want everybody to be on the same page and be excited for the growth. And I think for agents is we are sitting on a ton of opportunity as we're recording this, because as we see rates are starting to come back down a little bit from the highs in November and December. And I think the agents who have been consistently prospecting, consistently staying in front of their database, I'm telling everybody, go back to all your old leads who have been putting off buying or selling because of the market. This is a great time to re-enter the market. And I think if rates keep continuing to drop, some people are going to say, hey, it's time for us to move. Like, yes, we're going to have a higher rate, but we have to move on with life. So we hopefully could create a little bit more inventory. But for the people who put themselves in the right position to succeed and right now can have a tremendous year, and the ones who aren't are going to really be regretful that they didn't. So I'm super excited for 2024. 2023 was tough, but great businesses are built during the tough times. They're not built during the good times. So a lot of offices had to, and a lot of real estate companies had to do layoffs, even teams. We really kind of just doubled down to stay focused on our core values because I think there's so much opportunity that I want to be there positioned for that opportunity.
Nice. Well, that's massive, man. And so here's what I heard. 2023 was a year of investing in people. And because of that, you realize you don't just need a sales management system, you need a people management system, right? And we've always heard you don't manage people, you manage systems that manage people. And EOS is a fantastic way to manage people, right? And by the way, if anybody's thinking it's me advocating that you are the despotic leader of this group of people and you implement some system and oppress them with it, EOS is mostly the leadership being accountable, right?
Right.
And so that's what I love about it. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to learn more about EOS, I'll include links in the show notes for the book that I think kicked it all off, which is Traction.
Right.
Then you learn how to play the right way with your visionary using rocket fuel as the source for that. I ran on EOS for 4 years. Every business that I'm part of, we run on EOS now. It's part of my insistence, right? We talked about the construction company that I bought part of, the small mortgage team, software company, all of them EOS. Right.
And if some people ask me, like, well, why are you investing in EOS now after all these years? And I said, because there's so many people who I look up to and respect and have a business that I want to get to that level. And a lot of them have told me EOS has helped them get there. So I'm not always the smartest one, but I know success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So if I feel like we need to break through to the next level and that's going to help us get there and give us more clarity, it's worth the investment.
So this leads me to something I didn't plan to talk about, but I think it's important because when you bring up EOS, have you noticed the degree of vulnerability you have to demonstrate because of EOS?
It's been amazing. So I built this company over for the last 10 years. So of course I want to think every decision I made and everything I've done is great. But it's good to hear where we can improve. And our business could only get so far with me. It has to be a team around us that uplifts us and having talented people. And the EOS helping us implement this with our company, he said to me, you did a really good job. He says a lot of times visionaries want to control the conversation and try to dominate. He said, you really sat back and let your team talk. And I said, well, if my team is the one who's going to help me continue to build this, is they're the one that has to have the input.
Yeah.
So I think when I look at a business, and I think the best team leaders do this too. I mean, it's not about you. I mean, it's about the team. And the more successful your team is, the more successful you're going to be. And if you kind of have that attitude of like, well, my way is the best way, and this is how I got here, people could get to the same destination point, but travel different paths. There is no right path. But all I know is if I'm at a table of a bunch of award winners that are working with me, I'm going to hit the goals I want.
Yeah.
So it's been a great eye opener. It's been awesome for the accountability part. I mean, we talk about accountability so much, and we've been in coaching groups that really stress all the accountability. but it really is everything. And also empowering people to make those decisions.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a micromanager, but one thing I know is like, hey, you might make the wrong decision, but explain to me why you made that decision, why you thought it was a good decision. And to me, it's a pattern if you're going to keep making. But having those good people is what really rocket fuels your business, gets you to another level, everything else. And same thing with the team. And sometimes some people are only good to a point, and you have to look for people who want to uplift and get the business. And you got to get buy-in. The best teams are the team where everybody on the team is bought into the team and the vision of the team.
That's huge. And why I say that is if anybody is like, oh, EOS, that's going to be my hack to getting all my people, in order, it will help. But understand there's nowhere to hide as a leader. Right. That's what I love about that system is there's nowhere to hide. You have to be extremely honest about who you are. You got to be super transparent. You got to be vulnerable because without it, the system doesn't work. The other thing I was going to talk to you about is I'm a big believer in modeling, right? I have a phrase, and anytime I'm coaching another team leader or a CEO or whatever, I tell them, listen, our job is to model and train our agent, model for and train our agents such that they can coach themselves in our absence, right? Like I teach them fundamental truths and principles about productivity. The reason I say all that is I'm sure there's a big part of you that might not be the forefront of your mind all the time. There's a big part of you that's got to know that you being so consistent with your online presence and your authority building and adding value to the marketplace, that's modeling for your agents what they should be doing, right? Like you can't ask them
Right.
to do something you're not willing to do. So talk to me about your journey of like, were you always just like, I'm Mr. Consistent and I crush video all the time? Was there a learning curve there? Like, talk to me about that.
No, I mean, there was a huge learning curve. Nobody's just picks up the camera one day and it's like, oh, I love doing video. This is definitely a learning curve. Nobody likes the way their voice sounds. Something could be better with their appearance or whatever it might be. But I don't love video, but I love the results I get from video. And that's what motivates me is the results, being attached to a process, not the immediate result. I'm also never going to stand in front of my agents and tell them they should be doing something that I'm afraid to do. I'm not going to say, hey, you should be calling, you should make calls, but I won't pick up the phone and do it myself. So I think one of the things that's our value in our brokerage is that we just try to lead by example. And last year was a difficult year for a lot of agents. And I kept saying that there's got to be doing one of three things. Is one, you need to be out in front on social media. Because what's going to happen is when the market pulls back, agents do one of two things. They either go to fight or flight mode. And when the market pulls back, most agents are going to go into flight mode. So that agent that was always on social media, standing against a sports car, like everything's great. When the market turns, they're suddenly out. They're gone. You don't see them on social media. So you have to be out in front more now, capturing the eyeballs, educating people about what's happening in the market and being out more in front. And we were telling people that you have to have really fierce conversations. Your dialogue has to be dialed in more now than ever. Because if you're going to get last at bats, you have to have your highest conversion rate possible. And the third thing that you have to be doing is you have to be dominating your database. You have to be in front of your database more than ever because what's every tech company trying to do? Wedge a gap between you and your database. So you have to be out in front. You have to be in front of your database, client events, whatever it might be, more so now than ever because you're going to really rely on those referrals to keep flywheeling your business. When internet leads, there's less transactions, but there's not less internet leads. So you're going to be fighting more on that. You have to dominate your database. So I kept telling agents you have to do that. And I was like, well, I can't pull back on my social media when I'm telling all the agents they should be more out front. So we wanted to lead by example and do that. And hey, we can't be not working on our dialogue and conversations and our recruiting appointments because we're telling the agents to do so. We double down on events and client events with the agents because our agents are referring us other agents. It's all the same principles in business, and some people forget that. So we just really double down on doing all of that and staying consistent. And like I said, I don't love video. I just love the results it gets for me. And that's what I focus on. It's the same thing. Like if you're trying to get in shape, you're going to the gym. You might not love running on the treadmill, but you love the feeling afterwards and the results you get from it.
Yeah,
So that's what I just try to focus on. And I just try to eat the frog. I just try to get what I hate doing out of the way first and it makes your day a lot better.
I think that's huge because that modeling piece, I want to go back actually a little bit on something that we could have unpacked better on my part is I'm 15 to 25 to 30-ish agents on my team or in my brokerage. Tell me what I need to be focused on, the one or two or three things that need to be my non-negotiables to get to 5 locations, 300 agents, a billion sold, 2,500 transactions? Like, what are the things that I need to have ruthless commitment around?
So just recruiting in general, to me, and I was just having this conversation, I look at recruiting that there's four pillars of recruiting. And I don't know if this is in a book or something anywhere, and maybe I've read it, but to me, these are the four pillars. Is one is your referrals from your agents.
Mhm.
Two is the content you're putting out, your social media, the brand awareness, leading out in front. Three is events, doing events, using that as leverage to put yourself out in the marketplace, invite people to the events. And your last is your old school, just cold calling, setting appointments, and getting in front of people. And I think the cold calling part is easier when you have the strong online presence and you're putting a lot of content out and you're doing a lot of events, because you could call agents, invite them to the event. It makes the cold calling part easier. But to me, those are the four pillars of recruiting, where if you focus on that every day and what you focus on expands if you're really truly focused on it. So if you're focusing every day, like, how can I deliver on these pillars, and have I touched one of these pillars today? And everybody always looks at it as like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Everyone's looking at the elephant like, okay, they have 300 agents. Like, how do I get there? You don't have to worry about getting to 300 agents. You have to worry about getting to 40 agents. And then you have to worry about getting to 50 agents. Then you have to worry about getting to 60. Half the business is momentum. You start getting your confidence, you start growing, and it just flywheels. So it's really just like anything else. It's just focusing on those activities that are going to get you to where you want to be. And I would let our whole organization know what my goals were. So when we had 8 agents, I used to have a staff meeting. The staff meeting was me and one other person. And we used to end the meeting. I say, hey, on the road to 20, we're going to get to 20 agents. That's how I ended every meeting. We get to 20 agents and say, hey, we're on the road to 30, right? We're going to get to 30. We got 30, on the road to 40. So everybody in the organization knew exactly where we stood and what our goals were. And I used to say is, we're going to grow. And if you don't want to be a part of this, I completely understand it. And we accept your resignation.
Hmm.
Because we want people who are bought into our growth. When we still on the road to 50, 60, then we got to 100 and they were like, we're afraid to hear what the next number was. So we're on the road to 250, right? If we could just get to 250 and then 300, and now it's on the road to 500. So really just being crystal clear of like what your goal is, like what's your big goal, but what's the micro goals you want to hit to get to that big goal? And like, what are the actions you have to do? Because if you consistently do the actions, you're going to get the results. And one thing I would say is, if you're really lost on how to get to that next level, is, again, success leaves clues. Look for people who have done it. You get a mentor, join a coaching group, something that's going to help you stay accountable and motivated. And a good coaching group or good accountability, you might have to invest a little bit, but if it's really good, it's not going to be an expense. It's going to be a profit on your P&L, because the return you're going to get from investing in that group and in yourself should be a 10x return, or you're in the wrong group.
Yeah.
So that's what I would just really tell people. I
So,
mean, that's how I look at recruiting, at those four pillars, just consistently looking at doing those actions.
so recruiting is a big piece. When did you get intentional about recruiting? Because it might have been day one. My experience has been most people, they were not intentional about recruiting. For a while, they were organic recruiting. My team's grown organically. When did you get intentional about it? And if you can recall, was there any specific catalyst for you to say, I need to take this serious?
So it's a great question. For me, it was survival. So what happened was, I was doing a bunch of REOs. I left my old brokerage. I got into a legal battle with my old broker. I had to take a pause from doing my REOs. And that's what I knew that was my revenue. That was my money. I was 32 years old. I just got engaged to my wife, wedding. I had a lot of responsibilities. I had payroll now. And I said, listen, I could either use this as an excuse to crumble and fold and just say, hey, I got a bad break in court. Now I can't do this. It's not my fault. Or I could say, okay, listen, you're a salesperson. You're going to figure out how to do this. Get around people. And now you got to really focus on, because I never planned on building a brokerage. I really planned on building a team, and really focused on just building a team out and going the team leader route. But what happened was, I had this incident with my old broker, and I had to really just reinvent myself. And I said, I'm not going to let this stop me. And I always tell this story. So I live by Rutgers University in New Jersey, and there was a football player. His name was Eric LeGrand. He played for Rutgers, and he got paralyzed playing on the field. and he now is in a wheelchair, and he's the head of the Christopher Reeve Foundation. So I heard him on the radio the day after I had a bad court ruling not go in my favor, and he was talking about how he was the luckiest man on the face of the earth, that God put him in this place to inspire others and do great things, even though he's in a wheelchair. And I had a real sliding glass door moment. I looked at myself and said, Carl, you're pathetic. You're feeling bad for yourself. You could still walk. Yeah, one thing didn't go your way. That's life. Like, get over it. And that's when I decided I was going to learn how to recruit, and I was going to really go all in on growing a brokerage. So at the time, it was one of the worst things that happened to me. But in the grand scheme of life, it was one of the best things that happened to me.
That's huge. And so when you decided, hey, I'm going all in, I'm growing a brokerage, and it's going to be recruiting that's going to get me there. What was the next thing? Did you start picking up the phone, cold calling? Did you hire a coach? Like,
I started picking up the phone. I started leveraging the few agents that we had. I started doing events and inviting people to events because I wanted people to experience what it was like to work with me before they worked with me, right? There's the old saying, be their broker before their broker. But not even so much being their broker, because to be frank, I'm not the best deal doctor. And a lot of people hear broker, like, I'm not the best deal doctor. I'm not the best compliance contract, but I'm a really good, like, let me help you, show you how to grow your business. So I said, if I can get my message on how to grow your business, that's going to attract like-minded people who
yeah,
want to grow their business. And that's going to, in my mind, attract the best of the best. So I started really recruiting. I was able to get the #1 agent out of 4 of my competitors in my area. I got their #1 agents in those 4 offices, which
wow.
really validated me and helped me get in the door to more people. But it was really just events, agents helping me get it in front of these agents, and then really having fierce conversations about the one and the only thing that mattered was that was them and their business,
Yeah.
and how I could help them flywheel their business. And in my main office, we had 3 of the top 10 agents in the MLS out of my one office. I brought all 3 of those agents in. I'm super proud of them, badass women. And we have a competitive, probably one of the biggest teams in the United States is in my area in New Jersey. He was #1 in the MLS, and we had 3 of the other top 10 spots. So I really started picking up the phones, started doing events. I hired a coach, and then I hired another coach, really just kind of helped me figure it out and say, hey, you're on the right direction, but have you done this? Have you thought of this? Really honed in my craft of the recruiting presentation, being a professional, role playing, listening to my conversations that I was having. I realized a lot of agents I was kind of bulldozing over, like, all you got to do is this, and not really listening to the agent. So refining my skill. And then we started leveraging social media and everything else down the line. But really, a lot of the events, the coaching, and the recruiting is you just have to know is what's the right avatar for your brokerage.
Mm.
Who is your ideal agent? Then you have nothing. If everyone's the right agent, no one's the right agent. So
Yep.
really focus, like, what's your core agent that you want to build your business around? And 90% of your activities should be getting in front of those agents. Your marketing should be getting in front of them. You should be trying to get in front of them. And if you focus on that, whether it's the calls, and I always think too, is you kind of have to know what you like doing. If you hate cold calling, you're never going to do it consistently on a long term. But if you like doing the events, or you're really good at creating referrals for agents, like, really double down on what you like and you're good at to help you grow.
I like that. Well, that's good because a big part of the listeners, I would imagine, are people who run a business, but they're kind of like, okay, I guess I got to recruit. I know I got to recruit, but I don't know if I want to, or where do I start? Here's what I heard. When you started talking about, I'm going to be getting coaching, I'm going to be role playing, I'm going to be fine tuning my presentation, I'm going to listen back on the conversations I had. To me, that sounds like what most of us did when we were starting to list homes,
Yeah.
right? I want to be a good listing agent. What do? You get coaching, you do role play, you refine your presentation, you go back and listen. Why didn't I get that listing? Oh, wow, I was steamrolling the seller. I was just telling them about all my marketing plans instead of asking them what it is they wanted. I told them I could sell their house the fastest, and then it turns out they actually needed time because they needed to purchase another home, right? All those rookie mistakes we make as listing agents, we refine those things. I think a lot of times team leaders, brokers, CEOs, whoever's doing the recruiting, sometimes they don't recognize, hey, you've already done it. It's just you've done it for listings. You haven't done it for recruiting.
It's the same exact, I say it all the time, it's the same exact skill set. If you can list homes, you can recruit. You just have to mentally make that transition.
So I know we're short on time. I want to honor and respect your time. Knowing that the people that are probably listening to this, they may or may not know you. They may or may not even know me, but they do want to grow their business. What should we be focused on in 2024 in order to grow our business, both in agent count and productivity? Because here's the other thing, and I probably should have mentioned this and noted this right away, is you have a really high per person productivity, right? It's really, really great. And for brokerage, that's not normal. At least in my experience, brokerages tend to have a per person productivity that's lower than teams. Yours is actually higher than most teams, right? So knowing all that, I don't want to just talk about how amazing you are at growing and recruiting and all that stuff, but also what is it that we need to be doing to making sure people are productive? What are you focused on? And if I'm an agent in your area, you're in New Jersey, right? If I'm an agent in your area and I'm learning about your brokerage, what is it that we are going to be focusing on to help me build my business? What does that look like in 2024?
So really, first thing you have to do is if you're not hitting your goals and you really want to build your business, is you got to audit two things. You got to audit your time.
Okay.
How much time are you wasting? Whether it's watching Netflix or whatever else, you got to audit your time and you have to audit your business. So what I see a lot with agents is they really don't know where their business is coming from. So I've sat down with agents and let's just say they're doing 50 deals, like, hey, I'm plateauing. I want to get to the next level. First thing I do is I'll say, hey, let's go through your 50 deals. Where are they coming from? What are your sources? And I did this with an agent once, and out of his 50 deals, or it was 60 deals, 20 were Zillow, 20 were from calling expireds, and 20 were from past clients and referrals. So I said, hey, you're spending all this time and energy and effort calling expireds to get 20 deals every morning. You're spending are you spending all this money on generating these Zillow leads, and you're doing nothing for your past clients, your referral and database, and it's generating you just as much money as it is from these other lead sources. Why don't we take a little bit of your time and a little bit of your money and let's flywheel this last sector? And I remember him telling me the next year, he's like, I put $18,000 into my database and I got over $200,000 worth of business, and he grew his business to 90 transactions.
Beautiful.
And I'm not just saying it's your database, but it's really just auditing your business. Know where your lead sources are coming from. I'm a big proponent of if you're doing a lot of different advertising, is you got to be tracking where you're advertising. And it's so easy with tracking phone numbers now and where it's coming in from. Know your KPIs, double down on what's working and cut the fat of what's not.
But just to be clear, and I want to make sure I understood it the way you intended it, and then make sure the audience understands it. Had it been the other way around, where this guy's like, I'm really trying to tap my database and build my networking, and I'm spending a lot of money, but for sell by owners and expireds, I spend an hour a day and I got just as many deals, and I'm not working that hard. You would have probably advised him, all right, well, maybe the database thing and throwing big client appreciation events, would you say like shift to what's working?
Yeah,
Even
shift it.
okay.
Yes, and shift it what's working. So you have to measure what your results are and then double down on what's really working
Yeah.
and trim the fat. So, and I'm guilty of this too with real estate. It's such shiny objects, new this, new that, new way to
Yeah.
generate the business. But really is you got to be able to dominate, in my opinion, 2 or 3 lead generation sources. I mean, if you could dominate those things and add on through others, go deep and don't go wide. Sometimes I see people going really wide. I use an analogy. I was a wrestler in high school. My buddy was a state champion wrestler. He had 2 moves and that's it, but he cannot be stopped on those moves.
Mhm.
I was okay at 15 moves and I was not a state champion.
Yep.
So, and I'm a huge Yankee fan. Mariano Rivera was the best pitcher, the best closer in baseball. He had one pitch, he just couldn't hit his pitch. So if you have something that's really working well at and you're dominating it, instead of abandoning it before taking it all as far as you can go and going somewhere else, is really capitalize on that. So really just analyze your business and analyze your time and just get around people who are at where you want to go that can help you compress your time to getting to that next level.
Okay, that's super helpful. By the way, I grew up wrestling too. We should have mentioned in the beginning. We could have just made it. Yeah, because you're
Best
right.
sport ever.
It's the best sport ever created on the planet.
Yeah,
Literally before this, not kidding, me and my kids were out wrestling.
that's awesome.
I was like, 30 minutes, guys, what do we do? And they're like, let's wrestle. They got a football game tonight, but we wanted to wrestle. I believe it's the best sport ever invented. But you're right, Jordan Burroughs, like one of the top ranked guys in the country right now.
Jersey guy.
Yeah, Jersey guy. What's he doing? He's just double legging everybody to death. Okay, Any unique opportunities you see in 2020 for a team leader or an individual agent to take advantage of? And then we're going to wrap up in a sec.
Team leaders, I think this could be a massive opportunity for growth to really get experienced agents onto who thought they would never be on a team to go on a team. Because I think there's a lot of agents who have some serious burnout from the last few years of the business who don't know how to scale the admin side, who would be willing to go on a team to be able to grow their bottom line by
Mhm.
being on a really well-run team.
Okay.
So if you're a team leader and if you're dialed into your systems and lead gen, don't be afraid to go after an agent who you think would never go on a team, because a lot of agents are really burnt out and need that administrative support to be able to grow their business and keep a life. I think for team leaders, you have a tremendous amount of opportunity there. I think for individual agents, I think it's a good opportunity. So again, you have a lot of agents that are burnt out who are stuck and are frozen right now. And that's really one of the worst spots you can be in. So if you're an individual agent and you're really focused on your business, you're focused on your prospecting, you're obsessed with giving a great client experience when you're dealing with a client, it's a massive opportunity that you get to grow, because I think prices are going to increase as rates drop. So I think even before rates drop, we see more buyers going back into the market, wanting to get in before they think the prices are going to go up. So anybody that you've talked to in the last 2 or 3 years, if they didn't buy a house from you, I would be reaching out to them. If you have a huge old database of Zillow leads, Realtor.com, whatever the lead source may be, reach out to those people.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of worrying about enrolling somebody that's new, just go deep into your database, and there are deals there. I promise you. When I was a team leader, one thing I did when I bring on a new team member, I would never let them work new deals. At first, I would make them work old deals, and every time they would pull a deal out of the database,
Yep.
every single time. And I used to like doing that because the other team members would get an aha moment of like,
Yeah.
that could have been my deal if I just made the call. So I could preach it all day, but if you show them, it makes a big
We
example.
we had a $7.2 million deal sitting in our database for 8 months. New agent went in, called it
Popped it.
$7.2 million first deal on the team.
And all the other team members must have been thinking that could have been my $7.2 million deal, right?
Yeah, actually, the guy who answered the initial, it was a Zillow call. The guy who answered the initial Zillow call was like, never again. Never.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
Well,
awesome. He took self-responsibility. He was very mature about it,
yeah,
right? He was like, never again. That will
yeah.
never happen again. And it was really great. Carl, thank you so much for your time. I love this conversation. For everybody else that also loves the conversation, wants to learn more about you, your business, maybe they're in your area and want to partner up with you in some way. How do they get a hold of you? Where can they learn more?
Best social media: Instagram, Carl Sanfilippo, Facebook, Carl Sanfilippo. We do a lot of video, a lot of content. Our company is Remax First of New Jersey. So Remax First NJ, our Instagram. Reach out. I love doing stuff like this, and I just love helping agents grow and brokers grow, no matter what company they're with. There's no hidden secrets out there.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you reach out to Carl. Thank you again so much for your time and dropping so much value. And we will catch you guys on the next one.